Welcome to Unlearn the Crap TV with your host, Kathy Baldwin. Unlearn the Crap TV is more than just a show. It's a movement towards breaking free from the disempowering structures designed to benefit the few at the expense of the many. It's about education, healing, and unlearning the detrimental beliefs that have been ingrained in society for generations. So now, please welcome the host of Unlearn the Crap TV, Kathy Baldwin.
Hello and welcome to Unlearn the Crap on Lionsgate. For those of you who don't know what Lionsgate is, this is a time of great spiritual energy where different aspects of our universal world are all lined up. And there is a power that is happening within this. It's funny because I absolutely love Sedona. Sedona has crosses of energy, vortexes, where you can see physically the effects of energy and its power by how the trees are shaped and they turn and spin with the energy. For so many times, we don't know how to identify all of that feelings and what's going on within us. But we see what's happening within the world. We see the physicality of it. And right now, we could not be seeing more of what is happening in the world with this churning of energy. We have everything from wars to famine to so many natural things happening, forest fires and floods, and people are being changed by governments that are happening. We've got the big election that's happening in the States. And when we look at this time of transition, this time of turmoil, there's so many ways that we can move forward with this. But I talk about everything from the universal laws. And knowing that with the universal laws, the main number one law is that the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. And so energy is constantly in motion, it is constantly moving, and it is constantly changing. But we also have the laws of rhythms, of cycles, and cause and effect, and the law of compensation, and how we usually need to go to an extreme before that momentum comes back. And so I like to think that all of the chaos that we are going through now on a global, on a national, on a community, and also most importantly, on an individual level. Each of us are feeling the changes that are happening within our bodies and our minds and our souls. There's an awakening that is happening. There's a calling forward. And because we also live in a world of polarity, when we are being called forward for love and bringing our very best to the world, we're also going to see the biggest, ugliest, mean hatred. It's got to come at the same time because we do live in a world of polarity and we must see both aspects. And I think this time that we're living in right now is so important for us to see how the universal laws are affecting us. And so today's show is called Unlearning Conflict and Finding Collaborative Solutions. How can we come together? How can we heal? How can we create? How can we build? How can we release all of that that doesn't serve us? And so you might remember our guest, Mark Entrekin. Mark was on our number 2 show, and we were having such an important conversation that I just had to have him back all by himself instead of sharing the stage like he did with Sherelle Morris. Mark is an advocate for ending conflict, for ending anger, for ending hatred. And he has collaborative solutions that he wants to bring this message to the world. Will, could you please bring Mark on so we can continue this conversation? Hello, Mark. Welcome back.
Hello, Kathy. Thank you so much. It's awesome to be here. It's great to see you. All the
Oh,
things that you are bringing out to the world today that has been just overrun with simplicity that people don't even think about how we can create resolutions. We can create solutions to the things that are right in front of us.
yeah,
And they think it's difficult. It's going to be hard. But as you talked about the extremes, we can focus on bringing those extremes back to the middle so we can come together and collaborate to what we need to do, to
yeah,
communicate, to collaborate about the things that we need day to day going forward, right?
absolutely. So, on our very first show, we talked about ideas and concepts about what the purpose of life was. But today, I want to start by getting to know Mark. Mark, could you give us a little bit of history of how you came to this place of being so passionate about ending anger and hatred and prejudice?
Kathy, that would take the full hour. Excuse me. Excuse me. I will try to make it short, but it all started when I was just after my second grade year in school. We were living down south in southern Mississippi, and my dad was looking for a job. Job hunting at the time was tough, but my mother's sister, my aunt, lived out in a little town in southeastern New Mexico called Lovington, and we moved out there because they had some very high-rated schools. The people were great, and it was a situation of going from the great people in southern Mississippi to the great people in southeastern New Mexico. Well, in some of that, I was going from a more black community to a more Hispanic community. And for me, being again 7, 8 years old between the second and third grade, I had friends of all races. I didn't even think about it. I didn't know. I heard people say some negative comments about other people. I didn't understand. I enjoyed people. I enjoyed being around people. Not a big deal for me. Well, I grew up in Lovington. I went through the third grade, through high school, played basketball, had lots of friends, red, yellow, black, brown, white. It was just an awesome process. But during that time, I saw a lot of the prejudice that people had toward each other. And I still keep in touch with a lot of my friends from Lovington, all races. Then I went to college in Texas Tech University, Lubbock, Texas. Again, a West Texas oil industry, a lot of prejudice in the process of who could do what, and a lot of it was based on their last name. It was a situation of a prejudicial nature. And then I got out of college, I came up to Colorado, much more laid back, much more informative, more even bodied, wasn't quite the prejudices I thought. Got married, was married for about 10 years, went into a divorce, and I was impacted by this person, one person, and there may be more than one, but this is the one person that hit the news. A guy that was divorced, won the lottery, didn't give his ex anything, didn't help his children in any way, and then that term came out, deadbeat dad. Well, I'm not a deadbeat, but I was a dad. And as far as the court system was concerned, very prejudicial. And we see it on the news every day about people that are beaten by our law enforcement that have no idea what they're doing or even how to read that law. Well, that's what all of us go through in our judicial branch of government. These are laws written by our legislature that we elect that go to a bar association that it's rewritten into legalese, and they expect all of us to understand it, and especially our police force, protective agencies. They are very intelligent people, but when it's written to the point of how many of our laws today are going to a Supreme Court for decision? We're talking all the time about our courts just backed up and backed up because so much of it's going to the Supreme Court. Why are our laws written the way they are that it has to go to the Supreme Court to get a decision? It's a situation of what is a judge? The judges in our courts, what are they? Well, as I see it, they are only lawyers, and we hear all the lawyer jokes, but a judge isn't it just a lawyer that has 5 or more years of adversarial experience? You might ask, well, what do you mean by adversarial? Well, adversarial, right, wrong, good, bad. Judge likes you, judge doesn't like you, judge likes this thought, doesn't like that thought, likes what you wear, doesn't like what you wear, likes the color of your skin, doesn't like the color of your skin, doesn't like mothers, doesn't like fathers. Who knows? But that's our judicial system today. So through all of that, I began to catch on to the system. And I started an organization with Dave Levy, late Dave Levy, passed a few years ago, but the Children's Rights Council, and got into court and got the ability to change some laws. And one of them was the Colorado law that said parental visitation in divorces. I'm not a visitor in my own child's life. No parent is. Grandparents, the same way, they had to get visitation rights to see their grandchildren. No. That, again, is our judicial system writing laws in legalese that no one can understand. So, amongst all that, from being in a situation of traveling from one side of the country to the other side of the country, from Mississippi to New Mexico, to going through school and learning about it, playing basketball with different races, it was just a situation of why are we judging others? What is it about each of us that makes us different? Because we only have 4 blood types around the world. There's 4 blood types. If you're here, you're in Africa, you're in Russia, it's either A, B, AB, or O. I call it the love circulation. www.lovecirculation.com. Take you to my site. We only have 4 blood types wherever you are. Again, red, yellow, black, brown, white. How many blood types? 4. What if you're in Scandinavia? What if you're in some foreign Antarctica? What if you're in some small town on some small island in the middle of the Pacific? How many blood types are there? 4. Do you think when you get your tonsils out when you're young that they come find just the friends in your family to receive that blood, that love circulation, to give you while you're in surgery? No. You could that blood that you're receiving during your surgery or whatever hospital procedure you're in could be from that person you just had an argument with 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago. But they could be the one that gave that blood that's helping keep each of us alive when we're in surgery. If our parents or our grandparents, that blood is from anyone and everyone that has that matching blood type. O negative can go to anyone. O positive can go to any of the positive. But the bottom line is that blood is us. 4 types around the world. Doesn't matter what race, creed, color, sexual orientation, gender, pay. Doesn't matter if you have a tattoo or don't have a tattoo. Doesn't matter if you smoke or don't smoke. We all have the same 4 blood types. So again, going from my 2nd to 3rd grade year, moving from Mississippi out to New Mexico, all the situations of race and color and concepts from people were just opinions, and that's all they are. Somebody's uneducated opinion. To go into college, ending up in divorce, ending up in the problem, seeing how everyone is dealing with this. I just think it's time to stop. Why don't we think about who we are and communicate this to our leaders? Because again, our police force, you mentioned extremes earlier. There's an extreme in everything. There's an extreme number of Republicans. There's an extreme number of independents. There's an extreme number of Democrats. There's an extreme number of unaffiliated. When I say extreme, I have to go back to the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. 20% of the people are going to make the decision for the other 80%, but 20% are going to be the most extreme also. So when we think about it, it's those extremes that we fight against that I guess are fighting for what they believe that are hurting the rest of us. So when you get into a police force, we have a lot of great police officers. Hope everyone will recognize that and see what a police officer is up against every day. Just go read the law that they're supposed to follow, that our own judicial system can't understand without going to the Supreme Court. We're expecting our police officers, our sheriffs, our deputy sheriffs to understand that and execute properly? We couldn't. How do we expect them to? Until we start writing laws, until we start electing legislators, all parties in the House and the Senate that will write the laws that we can all understand, we're going to have a continual prejudice of who knows what and then who doesn't know what. And if they want me to understand that law, if they want me to follow that law, write it into something I can understand before you start grading me on what I can or cannot do.
Okay, I agree with everything you say in a utopic way. But I am going to challenge a little bit because we are talking about extremes. On my last show, I was talking about the fact that J.D. Vance had made a quote that we need a new ruling class. And my belief was we do not need a ruling class, that we don't need laws. What we need is collaboration and healing. And yet, you in the United States, I say that because I'm Canadian, I'm in Canada, so I have kind of a bird's eye view, but I'm very, very affected by what is happening there. And what I'm seeing is nobody's talking about hunger and education and human rights and how to improve the medical system and how to make life better so that we all rise up to become the best versions of ourselves, which is the premise of what I am here to do. My mission is to help each person discover their most empowering self. So when you're dealing with that much division and you're talking about laws, and really my thought and my belief is a lot of laws are negotiations. They're about, okay, well, I'll give you this if I
Where do you get that idea? Let me ask that real quick. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Kathy. Who
but
told you the laws are mostly negotiation?
the amount of lobbyists that are out there who are fighting to have their,
Lobbyists.
yes.
Those paid people, the people that are getting paid nice salaries to push something through. When their thought or their concept comes about, what happens to it, Kathy? When they bring that idea, which some are good, some are not so good. Again, that's why I talk about the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. Well, I break it down to the 20-60-20 principle. There's a 20% extreme on one side, there's a 20% extreme on the other side, there's that 60% in the middle that want what you're saying. But they're in that 20% can be 5%, it can be 25% or 30% on either side. They're not exact, but there's always an extreme on either side. And when those lobbyists bring that law in, they bring in concepts, they bring in ideas. They do not write the law. Our bar associations, our legal community writes those laws and puts it in legalese. If we would get it out of legalese and write our laws even at the high school level, so that if you want to understand that law, they need to write it. I'll help write it, but write it in a format that we can all understand.
Yes, but it also needs to be truthful. And so I'm going to pick
Absolutely.
one that's my pet peeve. Okay. I don't believe the government should be legislating things like what I should be eating, let alone what I do with my body medically. But we'll just take the food pyramid.
Yes, please.
That is marketing. It was all about getting grains in there, about allowing preservatives, about allowing the pesticides to happen. There's so many things that happen to our food source and through what we were deemed as good for us, but it wasn't based on science. It wasn't based on medicine. It was pushed through by lobbyists and special interests, big business, big pharma.
That's exactly right. That's why I mentioned, as soon as you mentioned lobbyists earlier, those are paid, majority of them. There's always an exception to every rule. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not part of the law. I don't give legal advice. But and I've used lobbyists before. I've been in groups that we've used lobbyists to help us. But you're right, they are paid for what we want to pass, and we have laws that are passed by our legislature, the House of Representatives or the Senate. But that also goes down to our county levels. We have county administrators. We also have city council. We have people that are just like us, that are in these positions that we must work with to stop this nonsense. They may or may not know that impact that you and I are talking about today. There are a lot of people that know, but there are also a lot of us that give up. It's just too much trouble getting it across. Oh, it's not going to be that bad, but it is. So we can talk to our city council, our county commissioners, our state representatives, our state senate, our U.S. representatives, our U.S. Senate, and get them to understand that they can't even read the law to us. So it's explainable. They will all say, as I did a few minutes ago, I'm not a lawyer, I can't give legal advice. I can give my opinion, but what good does that do when it has to go to court, and some Supreme Court, and maybe multiple Supreme Courts before a decision is ever made? Now we've tossed another thing in here because I love this subject. It's generally based on a case law. Well, what's case law? Well, that means sometime previous there was a case with a judge, attorneys, and individuals representing their situation that went to court, and a decision was made. Some judge made a decision that turns into what's called case law. Well, do you know how many cases there are every day around the United States? Thousands every day. So you can find a case law to fit your need just as easily as you can find a case law to find somebody else's need. But that judge is the one that determines that, well, I find this case law fits this situation, and I'm going to rule this way. Well, it could be good, it could be bad, and unless somebody has the money to take it up to that Supreme Court, it stands and becomes another case law that someone else can follow. So instead of us doing what you're talking about by communicating and collaborating about what we need as U.S. citizens, we've got to stop our legislature from writing laws that they can't understand and we can't understand when they expect us to follow the law.
I totally agree. I want to get a little controversial. Are you open for that?
Please. Absolutely.
Oh,
I love
good,
debate.
good. Okay, good. So my belief is my life, my body, my personal life choices are my business. So who's in bed with me, as long as it's consenting adults, is my business. How do you find that we can end hatred and get rid of anger when somebody else is trying to dictate who, where, why, and how we should love?
You just opened up a great question because that cannot be part of the law. Another fun website that I have is ohshoulda.com, ohsulda.com. People say, oh, should, and we use that word should a lot. Who should? Well, there's no should to it. I'm sorry, no shoulda. It's up to us to live our lives as long as we are not impacting someone else.
Yes.
Now, again, if we want to grow a palm tree in our yard and it's right on the border and it's going to provide shade over somebody else's patio, no, that impacts someone else, as simple as that may sound. We have the right to do, but rights always come with responsibilities. But we have the right to live our life as we want to live it, as long as we're not impacting someone else. So who's in my bed, who's not in my bed, who I live with, who I don't live with, who I marry, who I don't marry, doesn't matter if it's a mixed race, doesn't matter. It's my life. And again, I will say it again and again, we elect them, our legislature must stop allowing laws like that to go up for vote in the legislature and never reach the city council, the county commissioners, or the state government, or the federal government to get up there. We know they're wrong. They know they're wrong. Or if they don't know they're wrong, what are they doing in the House of Representatives, in the Senate, and making decisions upon our life. Do they
Mhm.
want us making decisions on their life?
Absolutely. That is complete judgment and control and power. That's not governing. That's not taking care of the country. That is dictating that I believe this, so you have to live the way I believe. And
Mhm.
I'm
And you say
struggling
so
with
much right there. You should. I thank you. There's that word should. You must. Not you shouldn't struggle with it. You must struggle with it. But we have to come together, and
when
I'm big on this. It's going with what I'm doing. We have to instruct our legislature. That is our first step. And when I say legislature, I don't just mean the state and the federal. I mean our city council. I mean our county commissioners. Because again, it's a situation that all of us, if you try to read the law and the legalese, you're going to become frustrated. It's not understandable, not for the layperson. Well, even for our lawyers don't know it. That's why it ends up in court. That's why we all end up in court. That's why we have to fight over it. Divorce law, for example, we changed that, as I mentioned earlier, that term visitation to parenting time because they both parents must have an allowable part of the parenting time of their children. Not visitation. We're not visiting. We need to get those words out of there, totally out of there, because someone's going to use it and someone's going to take it to the negative. We must
Mhm.
fight toward the positive. I don't think even fight. We must work together toward the
Yes.
positive to make our life better for all of us. Red, yellow, black, brown, or white, we all need to be professional in each other's sight. That's the way
Yeah.
we've got to be, and that's the way we've got to build. And it starts with how our laws are written, and that must change today.
I could not agree with you more. And when we
Thank you.
come back, I'm going to want to talk about how we can make a difference. Like I said, as a Canadian, I am an observer. I know we're having our own issues here in Canada, just like every country around the world is having their own issues. But the United States is very visible right now because you are dealing with gender, you are dealing with race, you are dealing with every aspect is coming to a head right now. And so let's talk about what we can do when we come back after this commercial break.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. We discover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Well, I hope you're as engrossed with this as I am, because we have today so much that is happening. Like I said, today is Lionsgate. It is a spiritual opening of energy that is happening collectively in our universe. And then we have all of the turmoil that is happening. Today, Trump had a major announcement that he was doing. I do not want to discuss politics. I don't want to discuss Democrats and Republicans. I want to talk about the concepts that are so important to the individual people and how it applies to universal laws as well as our legal laws, like you're talking about, so that we can actually get to a place of personal empowerment. So, Mark, how do people actually take the power back and get out of the weeds and the mud that is happening and bring us back to what is important to us as a society, as people, as a community?
We need to start right now. You're exactly right. Let me tell you about my license plate. Now, I sold my car 2 years ago, but my license plate on my car was RIDL, Riddle. It stood for Republican, Independent, Democratic, Libertarian. Why was it such a riddle to build a better world for our children? So, our
Mm.
biggest problem is what you and I are doing right now, Kathy, because my mission centers around achieving unity with those around us to eliminate immaturity, insecurity, lack of confidence, and procrastination. What I do with my course is I show the first step is to understand the awareness, education, and value of unity as we foster a supportive environment that makes a significant difference in all settings, including the community, the family, socially, politically, and the workplace. Too many people are knowledgeable but fear the negative world that we live in today, where there are others that are continually searching for something wrong about whatever is said instead of looking for what is right, and then what we may say because of their insecurities instead of listening and possibly learning from another person's comment. Something else I do in my course is I also teach how to reverse negative comments into positive questions in return. So when someone makes a negative comment, don't follow them. That culture, which I hope to talk more about in a second, that culture that they have is not proven. Don't follow them or repeat them, even in situations of insecurity later where we're talking to somebody, we don't know what else to say. So we'll repeat what someone else said that we have no idea if it's true or not, or if it carries value. That's one of the things we need to work on right away.
What you're talking about sounds in total empowerment, but we've lived in a society where we have been purposely disempowered. Our school systems have not taught us critical thinking. We've been living under a world of judgment, of right and wrong, and who fits where. And so we're now coming to a place, and this is my belief, that if everybody healed their triggers that sets them off when someone says something or does something, and we actually went into our unique gifts and we brought those unique gifts out into the world, now we're bringing our best selves out, not dealing from our traumas, our generational pains, our belief systems that have been ancestral, put through generations and centuries that we are still unraveling.
And I like what you talk about, the trauma and generational pains, because that's what I talk about. It's in my course, it's in my speeches. It's all about our learning, our culture. We learn it first from our parents, possibly our siblings, our brothers and sisters, cousins, nieces, nephews, the whole family process where we learn our culture first. And we see even children that are 1, 2, 3 years old, they play together. They don't care that much if you have a disability or your color difference or anything like that. We're out to have fun. But
Mhm.
those same children, 2, 3, 5 years later, through that culture, through their learnings, all of a sudden find a difference in that other person. As I mentioned earlier, we follow what we heard. Well,
Yeah.
somebody said, well, that color is bad, or person like this is bad, or some if they say this way or they have this accent, they're bad. And it's just not true. It goes back to the blood types. Doesn't matter what language you speak or what your dialect is, you have one of four blood types. We've got to grasp onto that. We are brothers and sisters. Doesn't matter about
Yes.
race, creed, color, and none of that. So that culture that you're talking about, that learning is the problem. Our school system, how many times again, I've worked with school boards multiple times when my children were young. How many of them fall into it's too hard. We can't do that. Johnny does this, Janie does that, Sammy does this, Susie does that. And we give in too much. We've got to have some true strength, positive strength in our city councils, in our county commissioners, in our state government, in our federal government, in our school boards, people that can realize that that is not good or right for our children. And we must look at history and see that it didn't work before. And it's what the saying goes, doing the same thing twice, expecting different results is insanity. But we do it all the time
Yeah.
because it's not only insanity, it's a decision.
Yes.
Because you decide to do it over and over without receiving different results or better results. That's also a decision of insanity. And I'll talk about this. We must stop following someone else that has an unproven concept. And we see this all the time on Facebook, sometimes on LinkedIn, all these other social medias. People say something, and somebody else will agree with it, but it has no basis. If we had a basis, if we had the facts behind it, as I go also with www.realityfocus.com, we've got to be reality focused. If we're
Mhm.
not, we're basing everything we do on perceptions. Those perceptions have no value. We've got to work with our realities and build that going forward.
Absolutely. I want to talk about. I'm going to keep pulling us back to the individual. Okay. I know
Please.
you come from a collective and you come from a community and a big picture. So don't change your perspective from mine. But I like this contrast that we're doing here. And
I do
so
too.
when you were talking about how parents teach and communities teach hatred, nobody ever thinks about what that hatred does to the heart and soul of that child, how that becomes a trauma that that child now needs to overcome, how that changes the DNA of the child, how it changes the microbiome of the gut in the body and now starts creating disease. And so many times we're having all of these things happen that we're thinking it's coming from outside of us, but nobody's ever thought about the energetic power of our words, our thoughts, our deeds, our beliefs.
I agree with you. And that's what I brought up earlier about how I reverse negative comments into positive questions. So when someone says something to me that doesn't sound viable or something that is negative, I will ask them right away, where did you learn that? Where did you hear that previously? Where did you pick up that information? Do you have any proof of that? Is that perception? Is that a rumor? Ask those questions back because once we start on the individual base, and Kathy, you know I love you because I love what you're doing. I love that you bring up debate, and I love you look at both sides of things. I appreciate that. So let's take it to the individual for a second.
Yeah.
If each of us, as individuals, could just learn to ask questions instead of believing what someone else believes that only has perceptions in their knowledge area. Not that everyone here is just as smart as the next. We all have the ability to learn. And I know there's some children that have had there's certain diseases that are making it very difficult, but we all have some ability to learn. And
Mhm.
the majority of us, and above the 80%, way above the 80%, have the ability to learn about ourselves on the individual basis, but there are many tasks that we must take on, such as working with our government, that we need more than one person. One person can do a lot, no doubt about it. Martin Luther King Jr., wow. I look up to them about what they did on their own. But as they talked, they brought more smart, intelligent people on board. But there's a lot we can't do on our own.
Yeah.
A lot we can't do alone. We must reach out into the groups and educate more because it takes too much time and our children need help today. They
Yes.
need assistance today.
They
We
do.
have got to come together and each of us do what we can do individually, but as you talked about, that communication, that collaboration takes two or more. So we can't
Absolutely.
do everything individually. We have got to come together with the truth, reality focused going forward, and wipe out all of the things, as you mentioned. We don't want to go into politics, but how many times do the candidates, and again, same thing, candidates for city council, county commissioners, state government, federal government, how many times are they blasting the other person for something negative that may or may not be true, instead of saying, here is what I am going to do, and I am going to make this happen. If they would do that, I've run for office twice, Colorado House of Representatives, twice. But that was one of my issues. One, I was in a minority party, but I I was had good friends with my opponent. Good friends with my opponent. He would send people to me. I would send people to him. That's not the way I believe. If that's what you believe, please talk to him. He'd say the same thing. Please talk to me. We were good. We were a good race, but there was no way that I would be able to win in that district. And also, he was an Air Force colonel, a wonderful person. If I wasn't running, I would have voted for him. But that's the way we all need to be. We've got
Mhm.
to focus on what is good. But some of his issues at the end, as you talk about rights of the body, rights of our own body. And I'll bring something up to challenge you in just a second also, though, Kathy. A good discussion. But what we've got to do is realize that what is really wrong, what is really right. And let's focus on reality, reality focused. What is good for us? What's good for our children? What's good for our families? And what's good socially? We need to think about ourselves first, and then we need to take that community together. We need to bring the community in and make sure that we are all on the right path and we're walking that path together.
I love that. So let's go to where our power actually is. I know you work with companies and organizations and universities. So when you have a situation that is highly volatile and so many diverse opinions, I know I talk about the universal laws and that the law of relativity gives us a 360-degree perspectives, which gives us millions of different perspectives to choose from. We're never going to find one right perspective because there's too many places to come from. So how do
I
you
don't agree. I'm sorry, Kathy. Let's arm wrestle. I
okay?
think we
Well,
can. Why not?
I,
Why
I,
can't we? If we all
I'm
come,
up for it because I okay. So I'm going to use this example. You and I are having a conversation right now. but we're having two separate, different experiences because I'm coming from the filters that my brain has, my experiences, everything that my brain has filtered with my reticular activating system, my belief systems, my everything in the past. I'm coming from a different country. I'm coming from a different sex. I'm coming from a different age or generation group. There's so many different ways that you and I are filtering this one experience that there is no absolute right. There is your experience and there is my experience. So when we have those differences of experiences and perspectives, and we're trying to create collaboration, because the show is named about how to create collaborative solutions. How do we find the place where we can get rid of the things that disempower those decisions and just focus in on what empowers all of us?
And the way we do that is thinking about what I talk about, and that is the power of caring and helping and including others. Too many people think caring is on the soft side. Oh, caring, I don't know. I'm not caring for someone. Their definition of caring. There's a power in caring, and that ability to care about others and to care about that other individual's beliefs, as you're talking about, because again, they are beliefs. As you mentioned, it's what we've learned and what we carry forward based on what we've learned. So that ability to have that power in caring, in helping, and including others is the biggest part of what we can do. It doesn't mean that we all have to love blue. It doesn't mean we all have to love black. It doesn't mean we all have to love green or red or any color. We
Absolutely.
need to love each other in the other colors, whatever it might be. Our skin colors. I don't care if you're red, yellow, black, brown, or white. I'm going to love you anytime you're in my sight. No doubt about it. It's not about colors. It's not about who can do a math problem faster than another math problem, or you and maybe some of your science. I love the mind. I've studied the mind. But you're going to know things I don't know, and I'm going to know things you don't know, and that's okay. There's not a problem there. We can share and learn from each other, and that's the way it has to be. Our learning is going to be different, as you said. We come up at different times, but the end result is still up to us coming together, collaborating, communicating, and taking what is best, looking at the situation that we have in front of us. And don't say, yes, but I worked here before, or yes, I saw a situation like this before, though. This may not work. Wait, this is not that situation. This is not that situation. This is the situation we have in front of us. What's best for everyone in this decision?
Yeah. As you were talking, I had an image come to mind of sitting in a restaurant where everybody had their menu and everybody chose what they particularly wanted to eat. It did not distract from the fact that everyone was enjoying a meal together, that they were enjoying the restaurant together, that they were creating conversations together and still taking care of what their personal preferences and their personal joys, their personal being able to be individual and unique.
I like that. And I'm not sure how much time we have, but I've got 2 points I'd like to bring up here, but I don't want to forget the last one. But take
Okay.
that same restaurant situation that you're talking about. Now, I adore wine. Wine
Me too.
just to me, I can pour a glass and immediately relax. It's a sugar pill. It just pour me a glass of wine and I'm very thoughtful and laid back and relaxed. But take that restaurant. Somebody says, "Well, I want white. No, I want red. No, I want white. No, I want this one because it's drier. No, I want this one because it's got more character." And then how many times do one of us say, "Okay, I'll have that one. I'll have what you're having," and that's okay. But how many times does that carry over to our life and take that back to our school system, take that back to our legislature. Someone else likes it without anything more than their own personal feeling or personal belief, but someone else follows because of that. Instead of saying, no, I'm going to go ahead and have this full-bodied red. I like this great Cabernet Franc, not Cabernet Sauvignon, the Cabernet Franc, where the Cabernet Sauvignon came from. They want to stick with that. They don't fall to somebody else's beliefs or someone else's wants. They instead say, no, I think this is better, or I want to find out if it's better and not follow others.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Recently, I just went to a proximity dinner when I finished wrapping up a show I'm going to be on PBS called Recipe for Wellness. And we ended the
Oh, I hope
dinner
I
on
get
what
to see it.
Oh, I hope you will too. It's in post production. It'll be coming out in the fourth quarter of this year. But we went to a Michelin star restaurant, and when you're talking about that, I'm thinking how the maitre d' and the wine sommelier chose what was best for each course based on his education.
Exactly.
And we had a wine pairing with each course. Now, some of those were mind blowing, and I don't like red. I'm not a red girl. I like the white and the lighter. I find red too heavy and too rich. But some of the reds, I went, oh, if I had not have been exposed to this. And then there were some I went, no, yeah, that's really what I don't like. And so I love the fact that we're taking this concept that is big, global. It is about our laws and our communities. And we're bringing it down to an everyday occurrence that we're all doing. And there are times when you're at a family dinner where one person is cooking and you get what the one person is serving. And it's because of the situation. It is the best solution to just have one option. But in our lives, we need to be able to have room for all of us to bring our best genius so that because we don't know what we don't know and we haven't created yet.
That's right. We know what we know. We know what we don't know, but we don't know what we don't know. So we may not know what we don't know. That's what we have to think about. Now, again, it looks like we have about a minute left. Could I bring up another perspective for you?
Please, and then I'll wrap it up.
Okay. All right. Because as we talk about our body choices in a pregnancy, I bring up some subjects that some may be tough for some people, but abortion. Both parents must be involved in that decision and not just the woman, because what if the man wants the woman's the one pregnant, carries the baby, but the man wants the baby, the woman doesn't. But the man wants the child. How do we resolve those issues?
Well, that comes down to our collaboration and our cooperation, and that the choice is being in the individuals, not in the government, in my opinion.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
So I love this conversation, Mark. We could probably go on, and I love the fact that we're able to discuss very delicate subjects from two different perspectives, and we're not angry, and we're not fighting, and we're not creating war, and there's no name calling, but we're just putting it out on the table to see what we can do with both of our perspectives. So thank you so much for this conversation.
Kathy, I'm always honored to be on your show. Please ask me anytime.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And to you, the audience, I want to thank you for being a part of this. I know we're in a big paradigm shift. The world is changing and you're being called forward, and there is so much emotions going on. I encourage you to challenge your thoughts and challenge the status quo and see if it still fits with who you are today. And let's find a way to collaborate and cooperate and unify so that we can really start making a difference. There's so many things that are out of our control, but there's so much that's in our control, and that's where our power is. Until next time, keep unlearning your crap And thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Kathy.
This has been Unlearn the Crap TV with your host, Kathy Baldwin. Tune in each week as Kathy challenges you to rethink everything you know about personal empowerment and societal structures. Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.